Welcome back to SenseTalking for another deep dive. We appreciate your time. Today, we're embarking on what feels like a really crucial mission. We want to critically examine how justice is often presented to us, the public image of it, versus how it's actually enacted, especially when you look at certain high-profile cases. We've got a stack of sources here, articles, investigative reports, court records, and they paint a fascinating picture, sometimes, honestly, a bit unsettling. Our goal today is really to contrast two specific cases. On the surface, they seem to offer just wildly different levels of public scrutiny and, well, ultimately very different kinds of justice.
Exactly. And this isn't just about, individual bad guys, though that's definitely part of the story. What we're really trying to unpack today are the bigger implications. What does this say about systems of power, about public truth, and really about what accountability even means? The core question we're chasing is, well, is justice always about finding the truth? Or is it sometimes more about maybe a carefully crafted narrative, one designed to get a certain result, or maybe to avoid one?
Okay, right. Let's unpack that. Starting with a case probably everyone listening remembers vividly, R. Kelly's downfall. Think back to that time. It wasn't just a legal proceeding, was it? It felt like a show. Lights, cameras, hashtags. Someone called it a slow, delicious crucifixion playing out on screens everywhere, until the man himself was basically reduced to a meme, a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
And the system, the media, they seem to really dress the spectacle up as justice. We had the documentaries, the viral outrage. The courtroom itself felt like it was just bathed in the glare of public opinion. His fall was absolutely televised. And monetized, too.
That's the key point, the monetization.
Yeah, every sob, every public plea, every tear he shed, it felt like it was just consumed and recycled. You have to wonder if jurors were already half decided before they even heard the evidence. Remember that breakdown he had on live TV? People were laughing. It felt like prosecutors, networks, influencers, they were all feeding this machine, almost like sacrificing, as one source put it, one famous Black artist, gave this illusion of accountability.
Yeah.
Like, see? The system works.
And well, that's the fascinating part, isn't it? How spectacle can look like justice. It creates this appearance of transparency, of holding someone powerful to account. But it can also serve to distract. It creates this kind of moral outrage beast, as one source termed it. And that beast needs feeding. So you give it a target, a consumable one.
Right, like R. Kelly.
Exactly. And that focus on the individual, the spectacle, it can actually stop us from looking deeper. It channels all that public anger onto one convenient figure and maybe prevents that same anger from questioning systemic issues or asking about other powerful people. So yeah, a performance is still a performance.
Yeah.
And spectacle, well, spectacle just isn't the same thing as truth.
So we've talked about the spectacle, the televised justice, but what happens when the names involved are bigger? Maybe too big for that kind of show? Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's pivot now to the Jeffrey Epstein case. You immediately feel a different vibe, don't you? It's like a different stage, darker, maybe. For people whose names actually make governments, well, pause. And that stage seems to remain pretty tightly curtained.
That's a really good way to put it, a tightly curtained stage.
Yeah.
Because the contrast is stark. With Epstein, the scale and the reach, it went into the highest rooms. It wasn't just one predator acting alone in the dark. Our sources are really clear on this. This was a web.
A web, yeah, not just an individual.
Exactly. And that immediately suggests, well, it implies a certain level of systemic protection, doesn't it?
Right.
Or at the very least, a huge reluctance from the system to expose the full network. We're looking at unsealed court records, flight logs, those infamous albums of notes, years of really dogged investigative reporting. It paints this picture of an operation touching the absolute heights of power.
And the names that surface,
Right. A former U.S. president on flight logs, a British royal named in victim accounts, billionaire philanthropists, business titans, showing up in photos, memos. And this isn't just gossip from some blog, right? These are entries in official documents, dug up by reporters, released slowly, bit by the courts.
in dribs and drabs, yeah. It feels very controlled.
Very controlled. And the fact that, as you said, someone keeps trying to pull that curtain back down, it suggests there's a powerful force working to contain the fallout, not necessarily to reveal the whole truth.
And then, in the middle of all this potential exposure, Epstein died. The official line was apparent suicide. But the circumstances, they read like something out of a spy novel almost. A high-security facility, failed cameras, falsified logs, guards who somehow just fell asleep on the job, all at the same time.
It stretches credulity, doesn't it?
It really does. It almost feels like, well, it reads like a novel written by someone who hates endings, as one source put it.
Yeah.
Just too convenient.
And this raises a huge question, I think. What's the significance of him being silenced? Right in that cell, right at the moment the risks seemed to be escalating. This was the person who potentially held the keys, who could connect the dots, maybe implicate incredibly powerful people. In that context, the silence around his death. It doesn't feel like just an absence of noise. It feels like an active, deliberate curation of that absence.
Like manufacturing silence.
Exactly. It reveals immense power at work. And tragically, yeah, that silence looks less like a personal tragedy and more like a very, very tidy solution for anyone who might have been implicated.
Okay, so let's put them side by side now, explicitly.
Mm.
R. Kelly's case, you described it perfectly exhausted, televised, very moralistic, and ultimately consumable. The public got a story they could understand, process, feel angry about. Epstein's case, though, totally different. Buried in binders, so many redactions. You get the occasional leak, like, look, here's a page, almost like it's just enough to quiet things down for a bit.
Just enough to manage the pressure.
Exactly. When the files do come out, they're always portioned. Carefully managed, it seems. And if they threaten to really cause a firestorm, they get rerouted. Suddenly it's part of an ongoing investigation, or stuck in this endless bureaucratic limbo.
It's a pattern, isn't it? And when you see that pattern consistently applied,
Yeah.
especially when the information involved could potentially topple dynasties, as one analysis put it, it strongly suggests that someone, somewhere, with more power than your average prosecutor is saying, no, not this, not now.
Someone's hitting the brakes.
Someone's hitting the brakes hard. It points beyond just legal procedure. It points to immense, maybe unchecked power influencing what we get to know and what stays hidden. It really looks like a system protecting itself from what could be a catastrophic collapse of trust and influence if everything came out.
So what's the takeaway here for us, for you listening? It seems to come down to this. The names matter. Our sources are incredibly clear on this point. When it's a billionaire, a politician, a prince, a major celebrity showing up in those flight logs and those photos, you're not just talking about a scandal anymore. You cross a threshold into something else. State risk. What exactly does that mean, state risk? How does a name become that dangerous?
Well, the state risk means we're moving beyond just one person's reputation or even one company's. It's about the perceived stability, the integrity of major institutions, political, economic, even social structures, releasing information that implicates figures at that level. It's not just embarrassing for them, it's potentially destabilizing for the whole system, for entire networks of power.
So it's bigger than just bringing one person to justice.
Much bigger. Think about it this way. Why else, as Reuters pointed out, would things like a birthday album, a stack of personal notes, a folder of flight manifests, why would that stuff be treated with the kind of caution usually reserved for, like, nuclear codes?
That's a chilling comparison.
It is. But the recent document dumps, the congressional releases, they've shown us glimpses, the edges of that ledger. And the reaction is always the same, isn't it? Predictable. Outrage flares up, then you get the denials, and then, very quickly, you see these organized efforts to contain the fallout. The focus shifts. It moves away from accountability for individuals and towards protecting the larger structures. Not necessarily because everyone involved is innocent, but because exposing them could shake the very foundations of the power structures they belong to.
Okay, let's be really clear here because this is important. This conversation isn't about absolving anyone. It's not making excuses. If a celebrity abused their power, they absolutely should face prosecution. Full stop. But, and that's the ugly truth we seem to be circling, the kind of moral theater we saw around R. Kelly, it can work as a fantastic distraction, can't it? It distracts you from the quality of silence surrounding a case like Epstein's.
The contrast is the key. The noise versus the silence.
Exactly, and it suggests that the justice system, and yeah, the media that feeds on it and feeds it, might have a limited appetite for really collapsing the institutions that, fund it, protect it, employ its key players. Almost like, okay, take down one famous singer, you look moral, you look tough on crime, but burn the wrong book.
Yeah.
Expose the wrong list of names. You could set off a chain reaction that scorches titans, destabilizes things. So maybe they cut the small cords, the visible ones, and they carefully hide the big ropes that connect the really powerful players.
And that leads us to, I think, a critical conclusion for today. Until those Epstein files are fully released, every log, every ledger, every photo, every contact list, no redactions masking key info, we are essentially living inside a crafted narrative.
A narrative someone else wrote.
Precisely. We, the public, we applaud when a celebrity falls. And maybe we're encouraged to feel like, okay, the system worked. But meanwhile, the actual documents, the papers that could potentially expose and maybe even dismantle entire networks of abuse, They're gathering dust in government vaults or behind redaction marks. And that, as you've laid out so clearly, isn't really justice for all. It's theater. Carefully chosen victims are paraded while potentially powerful perpetrators remain protected off stage. The system performs justice selectively.
So, to you listening right now, we ask you to really think about that difference. The difference between real justice and performance. Theater. We need to demand transparency. We need to demand accountability, regardless of who is implicated. The call should be, open the vaults, let the world see the receipts, all of them. If the names in those files, the big names, are truly innocent, great. Let them exhale, move on, reputations cleared by the light of day. But if they're guilty, then let them fall, no matter their status, no matter their power or influence. We have to stop letting spectacle substitute for actual truth. You deserve the vaults, not just the playbill.
Absolutely. That full disclosure. It feels like the only way forward if we genuinely want accountability, not just the appearance of it. The stakes are just too high.
Until the Epstein files are released, the U.S. cannot claim justice. It can only claim performance. R. Kelly may be guilty of sins, but at least his trial was visible. Epstein's crimes, by contrast, are smothered under a conspiracy of silence, guarded by presidents, princes, billionaires, and institutions too powerful to fail. And that is the real scandal. America's justice system doesn't fear crime, it fears the truth. Avoid evil. SenseTalking.